This episode of the Story to Screen podcast is brought to you by BigDogsLair.com, the website where wholesome, clean family entertainment is presented. Please check it out. Well, hello again, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, a podcast where we review all different kinds of movies every week, new and old. I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm Joshua Ling, and this isn't every week, but something like that.
We're just trying to give them an idea of the format of what we do.
And figure things out on our own as well.
Yeah, trying to figure things out on our own. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit tired at the moment, but I'm going to try to do my best to get through the show. Today's movie review will be the new Superman movie.
Our first theatrical movie.
Our first theatrical movie that we're going to be reviewing. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, the brand new Superman movie starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Kevin Costner, Russell Crowe, and a whole bunch of other familiar faces that you've probably seen.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Morpheus from The Matrix, and Pee-wee.
Yes, and the cowboy from Pee-wee.
Yes. Which I have not seen that.
I haven't really either, but I still think of him as the cowboy from Pee-wee. Yeah.
So, I think we're gonna avoid everything. I think we're gonna avoid, weekly segments. I think we're just gonna go ahead and just jump straight into our review. So you and I got a group together, and we actually went to the AMC theater to go view the new Superman movie, which was actually a nice little get-together. You and your brothers came along, and some friends of mine came. I have to say, this was actually one of my most anticipated movies of the year, wouldn't you say?
I think for most people, this was the most anticipated movie of the year, which I think is why it's so split.
yeah, because the reviews have been very, very mixed.
I don't think they've been mixed. I think they've been split.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score. It was at 56%. That was it. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone down.
I saw it 53 a couple days ago.
Oh, 53?
Yeah, it was down to 53, and it's back up a little bit. I think a lot of the people who enjoyed it didn't go and review immediately. I think that happens sometimes where people who are negative are the first ones to I'm not saying it'll go up much further. But,
yeah.
But a lot of people are immediately negative gut-wrench reaction. Need to review and vent on this movie.
Even before going in, what was some of the things that you were...
To me, I had seen all the trailers. I had seen the backstage featurette, but even then, Man of Steel to me exceeded a lot of expectations, but in a way that wasn't expected.
Okay. There were a lot of things I wasn't expecting in this movie. So I was actually I have problems with it, but I was thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was on the edge of my seat throughout the entire movie, and we'll get into that later on. For me, this was actually my number one most anticipated movie of the year. Behind it is number 2 and 3 are Hobbit and Lone Ranger.
What about Thor 2?
Oh yeah, Thor 2, that's number 4.
November's shaping up to be a big month. We got Thor 2 and the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, I thought it was going to be December.
I'm pretty sure it's November.
Okay. But anyway, this was a movie that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I was just dying to see a new Superman movie, and I was really excited with the talent behind it. I mean, you had Christopher Nolan, who did the Batman movies, 2 of which I liked, and also his other body of work I've always liked. Zack Snyder, what's your personal opinion on Zack Snyder?
Zack Snyder is a person that I have not seen a lot of movies from.
Not seen Sucker Punch?
I've not seen Sucker Punch. I know a lot about Sucker Punch. I have not seen Sucker Punch fully for myself. One day I will sit down and see. I actually have a friend who really enjoyed it, believe it or not.
I've heard a lot of...
There's a few people who really like it. And,
which I don't understand. I just think they like the popcorn aspect.
Which Zack Snyder, to me, it's a good transition, is very much a popcorn director. But not just a popcorn director. I think he has a bit more of a heroic heart. That's really the only way I can say it. Like, he has a heart for the hero. For the guy who's struggling to push that boulder out of the way to save the children. You know, that he has that, obviously, Sparta, you know, that male hero in his, not just his writing, his directing, his way of presenting something. He really presents things as an alpha male trying to be a hero. Which you don't see a lot of, and that's something I do admire about Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I think you definitely got that through 300. My thing with Zack Snyder, I've not seen a whole lot of his work. I know that he's been kind of a more mixed to negative, kind of a type of film director who's...
So was Sam Raimi.
Well, at least Sam Raimi, at least he managed to direct at least better movies, from my opinion. But, yeah, when he was selected, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was just kind of, I mean, I said to myself, okay, I can see it. I can see a visually stunning Superman. I was just kind of like nervous in terms of like, acting and certain other things. I think I was also a little worried that it might be a little dense. Very kind of maybe like a soulless type of Superman movie.
Fair enough.
And I also was a little worried because of David S. Goyer, who is a writer who I have very negative opinions on. I mean, I know that he wrote Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, but I think Nolan had a lot more of a bigger input on those movies than Goyer did.
The biggest complaint that I have with Goyer, and it's not really a big complaint because I am not. A lot of people hate speeches in movies, like something that doesn't seem like real dialogue, you know? Mm-hmm. And in some cases I say, yeah, that needs to be subtle. Superman is not one of them. Mm-hmm. I think Superman should be speechy, for lack of a better term. Batman Begins, while it's a great movie, is very speechy. And should it be? You know, that's another topic and everything, but there's a lot of speechiness and kind of hammy Shakespeare in David Goyer, it seems like.
Well, wait until you watch Dark Knight and Bane and all that stuff, and you tell me.
Dark Knight Rises, you mean?
Dark Knight Rises, yeah, I'm sorry.
I've seen The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dark Knight Rises, yeah. So anyway, let's just go ahead and just dive into a review of the movie, Man of Steel.
You let them handcuff you?
Wouldn't be much of a surrender if I resisted. And if it makes them feel more secure, then...
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S.
So basically, as the movie starts, we, of course, start with Krypton. I was actually really taken aback by how different this world was, because leading up to this movie, I actually watched the first 2 Christopher Reeve Superman movies, because I was really curious to see how different of an approach it was going to be, and how much it was going to separate itself from those movies. But right off the bat, I was really taken in by Russell Crowe's performance.
Russell Crowe did a good job here. Russell Crowe is one of those actors that when he gets into a character, she's great.
And then he's in the console scene and he's telling them like about the Krypton.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, this is a very spoiler heavy review. So So basically, he's pleading with the council that the Krypton will explode, and then all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, comes General Zod, Michael Shannon. I have to say, this was a very interesting choice, because I was really kind of curious to see how they would do Michael Shannon Zod. They didn't do that. And you find out that in this scene, like, of course, yes, he's trying to establish a new order, but but this is a very different Zod than the one that we got from Superman 2. What did you think of Michael Shannon's Zod?
Michael Shannon's Zod. First half of the movie was a warming up to me. I am not a fan of the Christopher Reeves Superman movies. I don't think they're bad. I just don't really like them. Zod, like, the first half was just warming up to the character. He seemed kind of flat at first to me, but the more I saw of him, the more it was, okay, this is a military general who's gone mad with power. That's the character. And so he decides that he knows what's best for his people, and he's going to do it no matter what, which is a very interesting character. In many ways, it reminds me of someone like Oliver Cromwell, who's a hero to me.
Okay.
But it's someone who goes in and decides, might doesn't make right, but I know what's right, and I have the might, so I'm going to make it right.
His Zod, when he first came onto the screen and he was, like, hamming it up a little bit, I was like, he's hamming it up? But it was very delightful. Like, it was like, he wasn't as the Zod I thought he was going to be. A very more darker, cunning Zod. But he wasn't a dictator Zod like Terrence Stamp Zod. He was more, you probably got that at the beginning, but as the movie progressed, you kind of found out, like, okay, this is a very different Zod than what we've seen before. But anyway, yeah, you get the whole Krypton stuff. It's basically falling apart, but then you find out that Superman, Kal-El, is actually the first infant child to be born naturally. So basically, you kind of find out there's, like, Krypton is basically a colony of...
It's Nazi Germany.
Okay.
To a certain extent.
Well, I was thinking more Attack of Clones.
You know what it's really like?
What is it?
Gallifrey.
Yeah!
Krypton in this movie is Gallifrey.
The design, that was something that really impressed me, because, when you look at the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, they're very much a crystal, which I like that design. I don't know if you
I do too.
But this one, it kind of reminded me of, it kind of reminded me more of a medieval, more medieval.
Oh yeah, it's a more medieval Gallifrey, but it's Gallifrey.
Yeah.
The other thing you can look at is, I don't know if you know this about Doctor Who, because I think you only watched the new ones mainly.
Yeah.
And haven't really researched the old stuff.
But I've seen pictures of the old stuff.
Right.
So
well, Gallifrey had the exact same birth thing in their society.
Okay.
Well, not exact. In this one, it was like, we have a codex, whatever thing. It's a skull.
Which I would make a really cool.
It's the DNA for that we're using to make everybody. In the Gallifreyan society, essentially what they had is something called, I think it was looms, and what that essentially is they were never actually fully natural-born Gallifreyans. They kind of did this thing where they were genetically engineered one at a time when there was need for more population, and you're never a father-son type situation like kind of was on Krypton. In this situation, you were more like everyone's a cousin. So there was no mother, father, brother, sister. It's cousins. Everyone's cousins, basically.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more to the extreme in Gallifrey, but they had the same kind of situation on Gallifrey that partially ended up leading to its demise. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's Gallifrey.
Now, one thing I forgot to mention about Russell Crowe, but another thing that I bought into his Jor-El was that I really sensed that he had a much more loving care nature, concern for his son. than I felt for Marlon Brando. Because Marlon Brando felt more like he was more of just this authoritative figure. But Russell Crowe just brought so much. I think he brought so much humanity to Jor-El than in previous incarnations, because he seemed to have there just seemed to be a very deep father-son love for his son, and then even when he was putting him away, sending him off, which that was a cool sequence, by the way, and a very emotional sequence too, and especially with the Hans Zimmer music, where I think it was because he was just playing the piano there at that moment. It was very, very good. Have you gotten the soundtrack?
I have not yet, but I love Hans Zimmer's score.
Oh, me too.
Not just in this movie, but I love Hans Zimmer's score.
He's a good guy.
Do you know, a slight sidetrack, but do you know how he makes his music?
Yes.
Pretty much all digital.
Yeah.
He does it in his house.
Keyboard and all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, continuing on, we have, Kal-El, Clark, whatever you want to call him, after he lands and everything, and he's,
Perfect Storm.
Yeah, he's journeying up north, to find his past. And, there's some really cool sequences, including the truck that he puts a pole through, which I thought was...
Oh, that was awesome.
That was wonderful. It shows that even Superman gets ticked off and will snap at times.
Yeah. What'd you think of, let's talk about Henry Cavill quickly. What did you think of his, Superman?
He was Superman.
And you're okay?
And Superman at times is bland.
Mm-hmm.
At times he is overly emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And at times, the other thing was that he brought that wasn't in a lot of Supermen, is that he has testosterone. He has adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
He has, I am a man, I'm going to punch you.
Well, he definitely was a man. I mean, especially when he was shirtless.
Yes.
He was pretty shaped.
Yes, he is quite shapely. But that was the biggest thing with him that I really liked. He also embodied some of the Smallville style Superman too. As well, yeah. When he was at home, he was very much Clark Kent from Smallville. He wasn't, the nerdy Clark Kent. Well, he wasn't, we only saw a bit of the nerdy Clark Kent at the end. But he to me seemed like a guy who, would work the farm. He would, he may not like that necessarily, but he would kind of be a little bit of a jock, not much. He had a little bit during childhood where he was more of a nerdy outcast or whatever, but you never got that sense that he was a completely different person from Superman.
Let me go ahead and just give you my opinion on Cavill. I thought he did a great job. I'm still trying to get used to him because I'm so used to Christopher Reeve. But I felt like I really want to see more of him. I really want to see him do more movies. What I liked about his portrayal is that he brought the sense of struggle that he knew that he was this alien, but yet he had emotional reactions towards these towards his powers, and he's like, I'm this creep, what do I do with them? But then as the movie progresses, it's kind of like, what can I do with these powers? Now, another thing too about his Superman that I found really interesting, and this is more from the writing perspective, but he was just straight up Superman, or straight up Superman / the real Clark Kent. He was not the bumbling nerdy Clark Kent that we saw like at the very end. He it's not like Bruce Wayne,
no.
like where he's doing like the 3 different personas type of thing, or even like Christopher Reeve Superman, where he was playing 3 different characters.
The thing, one of the little things was how American he really was.
Yes, and he's British, but
right, but he had a fantastic accent, by the way, by Cavill. You could not tell whatsoever.
No,
fantastic accent. Guys like Hugh Laurie, I can't stand because he has a really hard time doing that accent.
Really, okay.
To me, a lot of people go, "Oh, he's fine." I'm like, "No, he's not." And then there are obviously ones who are bad too. But he does a great accent. One of the very littlest things that I really loved, and it's not one of your DC things, all you fanboys and stuff out there. I know there was LexCorp, I know there was Wayne Enterprises, I know there was all kinds of things like that. But the littlest thing that I liked, or the thing that I liked the most that was a little thing, was him wearing a Kansas City Royals t-shirt. That little tiny touch.
What scene was that?
He's talking with his mom at some point. I don't remember exactly where.
Okay.
But he definitely, at one or 2 points in the movie, is wearing a worn out Kansas City Royals jersey / t-shirt. And that's like something you would have as a kid growing up in Kansas, because that's the closest baseball team, even though Kansas City is technically Missouri, and everything. It's the closest, thing, the closest thing that you have to a pro sport in that area. And you definitely got a sense when they were in Smallville and stuff of a sense of nostalgia and hominess. I felt like, it wasn't just his childhood and growing up. You actually felt like, in a sense, that you've grown up in this kind of a town.
Yeah. But, so we get into the middle part of the movie, and I think the movie kind of gets a little messy for me, because of the non-linear storytelling devices.
Which I think pacing-wise made it a lot better.
Really? See, well, the problem with that I have with the linear stuff is it's mainly due to some of the Jonathan Kent stuff. Because I felt like, because we get the scene with him when he's a little kid, telling him, Clark, you need to keep this side of yourself a secret. And what was I supposed to do? Let him die? And then you have that scene. After that, you get.
Can we stop at that scene for just a second?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things with that a lot of people are debating is he was saying maybe you should have let them die. Basically, he says should I let them die? He says maybe.
I didn't have a problem with this scene at all.
A lot of people do, and I can see that. But at the same time, it's kind of like you need to. I think it's more of the dad saying you need to figure this out, Clark.
Yeah.
Think of all the ramifications. You need to decide what kind of man you're going to be, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And it seems like we get that more with superpowered individuals, such as, cause I don't get that at all from my dad, and so it's a little, unrelatable for me. So it's like, but I see that a lot, and I think that's partly Goyer's influence and not being a little bit more speechy than dialogue.
He has this son who has all these powers. He's basically an alien, and he's trying to do the best that he can in that situation. I mean, the TV show Smallville.
Yeah.
You already had like a teenage Clark Kent, you know, and you didn't really get much of a sense of, at least from the episodes that I've seen, you never really got much of a sense of him dealing with him as a child.
Right.
So it was more the teen angst, the teenage years of Clark Kent and all that stuff, trying to help him cope in those situations. So you didn't really seem like as a child, those type of things. But I like this stuff. But anyway, some of my biggest problems with the Kent stuff, I felt like it was rushed. There was something about it that felt rushed.
It felt disjointed. I won't say necessarily rushed, but with Pa Kent in particular, I felt it was disjointed. Yeah. And I think
I felt like there was a better movie there, and I actually liked the Smallville stuff in the first Superman movie, because there was just something about it that felt really, really down to earth, and I really enjoy that stuff. And it was really shot very well, but I felt like there was a better Kent stuff here to deal with, but I just felt like they didn't really take advantage of that. And I don't think Costner was at his best at this moment right here as Jonathan Kent.
I think he did a fine job. I think it was more the writing for the character was too speechy.
Okay.
If anyone is going to be down to earth, it's the farmer.
Okay.
And when it comes to that, I think it was a little bit disjointed and just kind of weird. Particularly toward the death scene of Pa Kent.
I've got a lot of issues. I was like, I was like, when that came up, what?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people we're talking about the scene in the Christopher Reeve movie, a lot of the reviews that I've been hearing and things, and they were saying Pa Kent's death scene in that one was very instrumental in their childhood and stuff like that, particularly one that I listened to, Grizzly Bear and Cafe. He's saying that it held a certain weight because that's the first time he had ever seen on TV or in any kind of situation a heart attack kind of situation. That's the first time he'd ever seen one. He had no idea what it was before that. This scene, he said he felt the same kind of weight to it, and he actually enjoyed it.
Really? Okay.
Mike Quackenbush. He didn't love it, but he said it carried the same amount of emotional weight.
Okay.
For me,
I understand what this. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, for me, my biggest issue was I'm so in tune with Clark's character at this point that I hate the dad. I absolutely hate him. I think he's the stupidest person in the world. What is wrong with you? I want to punch you. What's your deal? So that was my reaction to it, just because I was so into Clark's character. As for trying to be objective with that one, I don't think I can because I'm still so into Clark's character.
Yeah.
I'm completely latched onto that, and so I was very upset with the father. I was very upset with Kevin Costner's character, and that's kind of how he ended. But it's definitely the same kind of situation where he's your dad.
I felt like the scene
You still love him, but you're like mad at him.
I felt the scene was just handled poorly because he goes to save the dog, and Clark is, and
Never go back to save the dog.
which I didn't mind that. I heard some people have some complaints about that. I didn't mind that the whole thing with him saving the dog. I thought it would have been more dramatic, maybe if he was like saving a child.
Well, yeah, but
And then maybe Clark goes in to save the child, but then he can't save his dad, type of thing.
that would have been a lot better.
That would have been a lot better, and I thought that's
I
what
didn't even think of that. That would have been way better.
Yeah, but just the way that it was shot, he's like standing there with all the people behind him, with his mom, and then he's like looking like back and forth, and it's like, no son, don't save me. And then he just gave it away by a cloud of dust. And then it's what? I don't know why.
He finds this hilarious.
It was just the execution of it, and
I thought the execution was fine, but
it was not as dramatic as I thought it was going to be.
No.
I thought it was going to be.
no, it wasn't.
I thought it was going to be an instantaneous death, where it was going to be like
Everything else is blown up in this movie.
we'll get to that later. But I actually have a feeling this scene actually mirrors another scene at the very end, but I'll talk about it later. Yeah, just this scene in particular, I was really disappointed by it, and I don't know, like, with the Glenn Ford death in the movie, that aspect was dealt with more like, this is death, and this is a part of death, and death is something you cannot avoid, as opposed to this situation, it was like, death can happen at any moment. And I felt like, I don't know, the power of that aspect just didn't work. I don't know, the emotion, I just felt like it was just poorly directed, and I just felt like the emotional, what they were trying to show.
I think one of the things they were trying to show and point out, they were, in some cases, doing the Superman as a Christ figure kind of character. This one, I feel like, was, he's going to obey to the very end. And I'm like, no, that's stupid, no. No, you do what's right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Saving your dad equals right, okay?
Yes.
Unless your dad is a horrible person.
the Christ imagery in this movie, I think was handled very subtly. It wasn't like,
Yeah, it wasn't in your face, but I think
No.
that was one moment where they were trying, and it was like, no, movie, no.
hey, there's a Jesus Christ symbol behind him, and he has the red cape or the red cloak on. It's like, okay, we get it, you know.
Yeah,
nothing against Jesus Christ and the Jesus Christ and Superman similarities, but it was just like, it felt like Zack Snyder was trying to say like, hey, this looks cool. Let's just bring this in and just show that right there, and that scene with the priest, I felt was just rough. I did not like the actor.
The priestess?
Yeah.
The priest, that scene was so short, I hardly noticed it.
Well, because it cut twice.
Yeah.
And I felt like it didn't work. The other thing I wanted to bring about the Jonathan Kent stuff was, was that after he dies, they show like 2 or 3 more flashback scenes. Shouldn't his death scene be the last thing, or the last scene, or the second to last scene? Just to keep the momentum, just to keep the power of his character, and then that death.
I could see that to a certain point.
Because I felt like that was handled poorly.
The nonlinear storytelling, while somewhat clunky, I feel like just for pacing's sake, worked. Like, yes, certain things maybe would have done better in different places, but emotionally, the ride was very smooth. You could definitely move them around somewhat.
Yeah, move them around somewhat. And another thing, too, is that you don't know why Clark is in exile. You would think that it would be the guilt of his dad, like him not saving his dad, but they don't really do that. They don't, no.
I don't know. I don't feel that at all. I think it was obvious to me. What it was to me was, okay, my dad's gone, I'm a man now, I have to go and find out who I am. Period.
Yeah.
I think that's all it is. I think it's, I need to go figure out this other part of me that I've known has existed. I don't have any ties, to anything at the moment. Mm-hmm. I need to just go out and do it. And that's why he waited until he was an adult, and everything, so that he had a fair amount of money or whatever, and he had his mom's blessing, and he could just go and figure out what the deal was. Mm-hmm. I think that was it. And I don't think it needed to be said expressly either. I don't think he was an outcast. He's just, or an exile from Smallville or whatever. He's just, I'm going to go find out what's going on.
Well, another thing too, I actually honestly feel like they handled like the whole like his powers a secret. I felt like they handled that stuff kind of poorly, because it seems like everyone in Smallville knows that he's got these weird abilities, and people are able to, in a weird way, easily able to figure out who he is. And and that's one of the things I'm kind of like taken aback by. Like, aren't people going to be able to point out like, oh, we know who Superman is. He's that.
I don't necessarily see that, because at this point, people in Kansas are thinking, yes, we have our one weird kid. Maybe other towns have weird kids.
Like, well, I mean, okay, this is a little different. I mean, when he saves the bus and all the kids on that
but that's one person's, or two people's story.
Yeah.
It's one family's story.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a whole bunch of people's story. Mm-hmm. And to that extent, the Kents are on a farm in the middle of nowhere anyway. Even away from Smallville to a certain extent. They become an outcast family in that regard. It's like, what is the deal with them? They're just that creepy family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real quickly, Amy Adams. I liked her Lois Lane.
She had a wide-eyedness, and that's not really a word, but she had a wide-eyedness that really was needed for Lois Lane, I think.
Yeah.
The discovery of finding out who Superman is needs to be something cool and groundbreaking.
That stuff right there I felt was very, very handled very, very well. And I like this Lois Lane a lot, because what I liked about her Lois Lane was that she was really tough. I was supposed to be kind of silly, because Smallville's, one of the things I didn't like about her, the Erica Durant's Lois Lane from Smallville, was that I felt like they just were trying to depict too much of a little goofy, over the top, inappropriate type of Lois Lane at times, and I was like, that's not what I want to see. This Lois Lane, she was tough, she wanted to get the job done, she was smart, which I really, really liked that.
She was smart, but not infallible.
But she was investigative, very investigative.
Right. I mean, she wasn't some crazy infallible feminist, but she was extremely smart and cunning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what was really good about her, is she wasn't perfect, but she was a real person.
Yeah, and also when, especially the scene there, between her and Perry White, because she was not going to expose Clark Kent's true identity. Because she had sympathy for him, because especially with what had happened, and I guess she was like, this is a human being, this is a person who's
not just a human being, but a guy who grew up in Kansas.
Yeah, but he's an alien, but he's lived among us, and he has these human feelings. I should respect that.
Not just that, but that is who he is at this point. It's not like He physically is an alien, but he is a human.
Yeah.
Like, his spirit is human.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just loved her Lois Lane. I really am looking forward to her. However, I did notice the age difference at times, because there is an 8-year age difference between them.
It doesn't bug me.
Okay. But I was a little kind of hesitant towards the role when she was cast, because I was like, is that too...
I can understand that, yeah.
Because I was like... Because when it comes to Superman, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen, which we didn't get Jimmy in this movie, but...
We got Jenny.
That doesn't count.
But it's Jenny.
I don't care. She's cute, though, but I wasn't... But anyway, one of the things I was just kind of a little hesitant was like, okay, I feel like that was just too big of a name. Because I was like, go for someone, a familiar face, or someone, a complete unknown, and I was kind of rooting for Olivia Wilde from Tron.
Yeah. You know who would have been my absolute favorite? She's just a tad too young for this role. But if she was just a little bit older, it'd be fantastic. And that, believe it or not, and some people are going to hate me because all they know her from is iCarly, but Miranda Cosgrove. That's all you know her from, though. You have not seen School of Rock. She plays an amazing character in School of Rock. She's a bit younger there. But she has
How old is she?
An heir to her. I think she's my age.
Too young.
Yeah.
Well, unless I have to see a picture of her in order to... I know who you're talking about, but I have to see like a...
Okay.
Another thing that I found really interesting about this movie was that there was a strong military presence, unlike other... But in this time, it wasn't...
Which is kind of the elephant in the room in many Superman movies. Where is the military?
Yes!
It's like Power Rangers.
Yes! But... Whoa. In this case, usually when you see the military, it's usually in retaliation towards the forces of the evil. In this situation,
it was just the forces.
It was just against Superman.
Well, it was against everybody.
But, which I found that kind of interesting because it was handling this question of how would the military react
Yeah,
towards...
and that's one of those things that Superman hasn't aged well. It's just the accepting of, okay, it's a superhero. He's a good guy.
Yeah. This one kind of dealt like, how would we react? How would we as a society in reality react?
And I think that's one of those things that people that set Batman and particularly Batman and Spider-Man apart from many people for many years was these guys aren't liked by the law enforcement or the military. They're not liked at all.
Yeah.
Because they're stepping outside the boundaries. They're not working within the system, and these guys worked hard to work within the system.
Mm-hmm. So you have this strong military presence of the movie, and they take him into custody, which I actually was really looking forward to that scene with him being in handcuffs, and I really liked that because he was very cooperative in that situation, and he went into the interrogation room, which I don't know why I thought to myself, oh, I think I'm going to do the Dark Knight interrogation scene, and Lois Lane's going to get chunked into the window. No.
That sounded like a joke to laugh. Well done.
No. But the funny scene, which I think is one of the funniest scenes ever, is that I guess he hears them talking, and then he stands up, and then he just like breaks the...
Yes.
And then everyone just like, retaliates, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's breaking free. He's like, you don't have to be afraid of me. I'm on your side. And I loved his Superman voice.
Yes.
I liked Cavill's Superman voice. It was just like, very down to earth and
very American. That was the other thing about it. It wasn't like, and I'm not saying, no, it was American, not British. I'm saying it was American in that it felt like a normal person talking to you saying, I'm on your side. No big deal.
And they still don't trust him. They're still they're very hesitant towards him. But then General Zod shows up and it's like, let's give him a try. Another interesting thing too is that the name Superman
was mentioned once.
Well, not just that, or 2 or 3 times, I think, but it's mentioned. It's not of Clark Kent's design.
Yeah, no.
It's of the people's.
Well,
or the
isn't
military.
that kind of the case in most ones? Because Lois Lane calls him Superman in Christopher Reeve movies, right?
Yeah,
it's still not his design.
Yeah. Well, I guess because when you usually, I don't know. it's kind of weird. Yeah, you usually think that maybe he just has the name right there, like I'm Superman. But anyway, this is the third. Okay, now this is the third act.
Let me go.
Let me just say something about the third act. I like the third act because it's just a straight on action brawl. But a lot of people, this is where the controversy kind of begins.
Before we get into that main part of it, let me get to the first part of the third act.
Okay.
There's one thing I want to mention very briefly, and that is the kind of dream sequence that Zod puts Superman through. That was something that threw me for a loop at first. I'm like, is this really happening? Did he just wake up in real life? And then, with the moment where I was like, I kept going back and forth, but then the moment where he's like sinking into the skulls, I was like, okay, yes, this is most definitely a dream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Zack Snyder, there you are.
That scene right there was visually astounding because
Absolutely.
I really felt like this was a mixture of
that was the closest I came to going, okay, I don't like this, but I went, okay.
I
actually do like this.
I like it. I don't know what it was. I was thinking Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Nuclear Holocaust meets Auschwitz.
Yeah.
It very much had that image.
It was very Zack Snyder.
It was very dark, especially when he was being dragged into the...
Yeah.
And this is where you really find out what Zod is up to, and that he wants to recreate...
And the idea of using a terraformer to destroy a planet, that's pretty incredible.
Okay, that kind of... while it was visually cool, I kind of felt like...
I don't just mean visually. I think the concept of using a life-giving machine to destroy something.
A lot of people seem to really criticize the third act because it just seems to either just go on for so long. Look, I like action scenes. I actually really liked it a lot. I did not feel at once like I was bored or... But I do understand the collateral damage aspect to it.
Yes.
People are, and this is the thing about Superman that I've always wanted to see was like, I'm Superman, but I can't save everybody, which I really liked because you saw a lot of people dying, and that was something I was really kind of curious to see is if they would expand on that. And do you see it from Clark's perspective? No. But maybe in the future sequels they'll get into that.
That's one of the things a lot of people, let me just say my thoughts on the rest of it because most of it is action up until like the nerdy Clark Kent emerges for that few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene with the drone, which I thought was great. But the battle scenes, the climax, all of that, I thought was very, very good. I won't say it was great. It was very, very good. I liked a lot of the things that they did. I liked the imagination when it came to the way that they did everything. There was a lot of imagination, and there was a point where I was like, is this like a little kid smashing his action figures together?
Yeah.
but it was still very, very much enjoyable. I thought it was great. Do you want to talk about those two final little bits?
Well, I wanted to. Did you get? A lot of people seem to be criticizing the 9/11.
Guys, chill out.
I mean,
buildings come down.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, a lot of buildings came down. I mean, that's just. Was it?
Coffees.
I don't know if people are just it just evoked that image in their mind.
Why is that a bad thing?
I guess a lot of these people were really against the war to begin with, maybe.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of people in that industry where they're against the the war of terrorism and all that stuff. And I don't know if they're.
Well, people are reading way too much into it. First of all,
I know.
Second of all,
if that's true, if that's the case, then why weren't people criticizing Transformers?
Yeah. Well, if it evokes
Transformers has its own problems.
Here's my thing, though. If you're complaining that it evoked an emotion in you that you didn't like, so what? The movie did its job. That's why I'm concerned. This is a scary situation and a tragic, sad situation.
Yeah.
And there was. I don't think that they treated it with enough weight. afterward. I will.
I think so too.
I don't like the kiss scene with Lois and stuff at the kind of the middle of the climax.
Yeah.
That was just it was a little irreverent, I won't lie,
Yeah.
but it was the cheesiness of it kind of won me over because it's Superman.
Yeah.
You know, come on, it doesn't have to be 100% serious.
No.
It needs to be about, you know, for today's audience in particular, about 80 to 90% serious.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say another thing too, that while maybe the action got a little bit out of hand, it may be a bit at times. It might have been a little too much at times, maybe. Like, you know, like Superman Returns is criticized for being too nostalgic. The same thing could be said for Man of Steel, that it's just way too action-packed and it seems to lose focus on. But anyway, then you find out about Zod wanting to basically... He basically has like a similar motivation to Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins.
It's true.
Basically wipe out the planet and restart Krypton.
Just on a much larger scale.
Well, and here's another controversial scene is Superman saying Krypton had its chance, Zod. Critics seem to be criticizing that scene a little bit because he destroyed an entire
the line
race.
wasn't written proper. What they should have said was something to the effect of, you cannot rebuild a world on top of a world that's already thriving. You don't sacrifice one for the other.
Okay.
You know, that's what he was getting at. It shouldn't have been Krypton had its chance.
Yeah.
It should have been, you can't sacrifice one world for another.
Yeah.
And that's much
And maybe
more
Zod counteracts by saying like either one or the other has to be superior, and it's going to have to be us. And,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And people seem to be citing like an evolution aspect to that. Like it's just
absolutely there is. It's Darwinism. It's Nazism.
Yeah.
It's the master race, you know, in many ways. And I never went out and said specifically Kryptonians are better than humans.
Mm-hmm.
He never went out and said that, which I liked. You know, he wasn't completely Hitler. He was more concerned with the emotional aspect of saving his people.
Yeah. Which there's no kneel before Zod, which I was actually waiting for that. I was kind of like, is he going to say it? Is he going to say it?
No.
He never does. But that's the thing about his Zod.
If they had said that, it would have been, to me, as bad as, there's a specific Christopher Reeve, Lois Lane line.
Can you read my mind?
What was it?
No.
I don't remember specific, but it was something really, really cheesy. And you could have done the exact same thing in this, and everyone just said,
"Oh,
baseball."
The scene where he kills Zod.
Yes.
I did not see. I don't know if you saw me, but my mouth just opened wide.
I did. It was. I was amazed. I was like, dude, he just killed Zod. It's cool. I mean,
no. Well, I mean, the thing that I was not expecting that. I was just like,
I wasn't either. But your reaction was just like, snap, literally.
Well, I mean, I would have thought they would have kept it for the sequel, or just like for future installments for some reason. I just was not expecting them to kill him off as early as they did. Did you have a problem with them killing him off that early in the game?
Absolutely not, because it's DC.
Okay.
And they could always bring someone back. Always.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I liked about that was just how he reacted afterwards.
Okay, but this
is the only person he has ever directly killed.
But and this is the scene that I was going to bring up earlier. Was that did this scene mirror that of the Jonathan Kent death scene? He did not use his powers, and yet someone died. Okay? In this instance, he does use his power, and someone does die.
Interesting.
Because does he see within himself at that moment, like, not only do I have the ability to save, I have the ability to kill.
I don't think he's thinking that deep into it at that point.
No. I just think he's just emotional. I mean, I just think... well, actually, no.
I think the biggest thing that is emotionally hurting him at this point is the fact that these people, while they had done crazy things to his world, he's one of them.
Yeah.
And he just killed one of his own kind.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that's going through his mind right here, is that he essentially not only killed Zod, but killed Krypton.
Yeah. Yeah. Which... And I felt that was a great scene when he just cries and just in sadness. And people say like this is such a hollow movie, but I'm like, there is some emotional stuff here. It's just the execution kind of falls apart. And I think that scene right there is probably the best dramatic scene in the movie.
I would disagree, but I think it's definitely up there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think the best dramatic scene for me was his mom coming to talk to him when he was seeing his teacher's skull and stuff like that.
Okay, that's the scene I have some trouble with, but we won't get into that.
We can do that another time.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay, I guess my biggest question is, how is he able to conceal his true identity when in reality, like,
that was an issue for me.
Yeah.
And it has always been an issue for me with Superman. I don't like, first of all, I don't like that it's a newspaper, even though they don't say it's expressly a newspaper. It's basically a news function, but I wish there was more, like, they should more of an online kind of thing. He's like, I can't print this. He should say publish. You know, it's little things like that. It should be more like, this isn't just print, this is online, this is, you know, all the different ways people get news now.
Yeah.
When it comes to people at the Daily Planet, it's obvious that they were building up everyone but Perry and Amy's character and possibly Jenny, although that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
As the only people who know anything in this company. Everyone else are idiots.
but
And that's something I have a problem with. But anyway.
Well, the funny part is that when Metropolis is being destroyed, it's like halfway through the fight, Perry says, "Okay, everybody, let's get out now." It's like, you should have left.
Yeah.
The Clark Kent at the very end, how is he going to be able to hide his true identity when he's basically almost showing his true face to the world? And
Well, especially in the time of facial recognition software.
Yeah, because and I guess that's just going to be more of an acting development that he's going to have to do in the sequel. But
my point is, they've changed Superman's power so many times. Why can't we just give him a face change? That would make everything easy.
that'd be cheating.
No, it's not. It's Superman. They've changed his power so many times.
But another interesting thing too, I was expecting like some sort of a, like with Iron Man, you got the post-credit scene, like with the Nick Fury scene. Were you shocked that we didn't get like this?
No, because everything was riding on this one, and they didn't want to set up too much for a sequel because they didn't know if it was going to work. Did we even get one in Iron Man 1?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, I mean, you just the post-credit scene at the end, but
is there a post-credit scene?
Yeah, the Nick Fury scene.
Okay, yeah.
Which is why I wanted to stay at the end of the movie to see it.
Okay. Well, as far as expanded universe stuff that's going to be coming, obviously, what do you think of the tone that they've set for the new DC movie universe? What do you think of? What would you like to see in the new DC movie universe?
Okay. Well, does the Man of Steel sequel count in this? Obviously. I do want to say this. I think Goyer needs to go as a writer. I want to see somebody new.
I don't mind him for certain movies, but he shouldn't be the main writer.
No, I think there's much room for plenty of other writers because I think I've seen the extent of his talent and I'm like, he needs to go. I want to see a Superman that has to kind of, like, The Dark Knight. Like, it has to be
a critical baby.
Yeah, well, not just that, but it has to be kind of a deeper movie. I know a lot of people seem to be against the idea of Lex Luthor. I'm up for a reinterpretation of Lex Luthor. Either that or Brainiac.
I am, but I would much rather see Brainiac. Brainiac seems to be the number one other person that people are talking about, and I think Brainiac would be awesome. A couple other options are, I think if they did a really dark interpretation of Toyman,
okay,
it would be awesome.
Yeah.
You really have to get imaginative with him because he's so weird and silly, and a lot of people will immediately go Joker.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other characters.
I know Doomsday's been one of them, but
any that you would just say absolutely no to. Like, and I'm not saying obviously like Mr. What's his name with the weird accent.
Yeah,
we're not doing him. We're not doing the crazy ones. But like, I'm saying any of the Toyman's on the line. I'm just saying, who would you definitely not want to see Who's actually a legit villain
that I would want to see.
that you would not, and that you would.
It's a tie between me and Brainiac and Lex Luthor
For who you want.
for who I want.
I do not want to see Gorilla Grog.
I'm not that familiar. I don't want to. I really don't care much for that Mr. Misley Piggly, whatever that guy's name is. Yeah.
No.
I
don't want Bizarro.
Okay.
I do not want Bizarro.
I'm kind of curious to see what they would do with that, but
Hey, it would maybe work.
John Cena as Bizarro.
John Cena. Okay.
Or Dwayne Johnson.
I think
there you go.
I think the height of John Cena's acting career will be Fred 3.
Really? And then in terms of the expanded universe,
I want a good Green Lantern movie. I want a good Flash movie.
I'm kind of curious to see, I'm more curious to see how they just do Justice League, because it seems like that's the thing they want to really push forward first, which that kind of seems a little odd. Like, don't you want to do like the individual movies first and then do Justice League? But they seem to be more prone on doing a Justice League movie first and then using that as a launching pad for the other individual heroes.
Obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. is like the core of the Avengers, and that's how they built that universe and everything, which I thought was an interesting choice, because the Avengers didn't always have, like, S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't think.
Yeah. They
were just separate. So, I'm interested to see what the grunt work is going to be for the Justice League. I think that Wayne Enterprises has a chance to be. I
don't think so.
You don't think like a Lucius Fox character could be like the not obviously Samuel L. Jackson. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's going to be Nick Fury, but I'm saying Lucius Fox being the head of the paperwork division, essentially.
Yeah.
You know.
Could it be Lex?
Wow, that would be an interesting switch after.
Well, but he could be kind of like in charge of that organization. What's that organization?
LexCorp?
No. I think it's called Checkmate.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
It's kind of like think of it as the bad guy version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
And I think I actually heard that he had some affiliations with that agency. He's not in charge. That's Amanda Waller, but But that could be kind of something really interesting. I don't know.
So, if you have a 6 right now for your first Justice League, who do you have?
Well, obviously the Trinity. I mean, you had to have the first 3 has got to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Absolutely. Now you got 3
Flash.
more. Flash.
Green Lantern.
Yep.
And I think Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. That's mine exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I know you can kind of switch it, or maybe like switch one of those.
Martian Manhunter's the one that's going to be iffy, I think.
Okay.
Just because he's not as popular.
He could be the backbone. Martian Manhunter.
I don't really see that.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible, but the backbone has to be like an organization, I feel like.
Okay.
And Martian Manhunter, while he could have an organization, they could have Mars actually be a thriving society and do all that. I don't think putting the backbone as something that's otherworldly is going to help the backbone any.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So anyway, on our final thoughts on the film, I really liked it. In terms of ranking, I think I would rank it behind the first one, because I think the first Superman movie from 1978 had a better pace, and you really seemed to be a little more invested into this character. I think as a first outing, I think I really liked it a lot. I just think that there are some lessons to be learned from here whenever they do future films. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what they do. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Cavill's Superman, because I think there's just undeniable richness there, and it's a great movie. I recommend you go see it. There are some problems in terms of just construction levels, but I think other than that, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know if I would say it's the best movie of the year, or the best comic book movie or superhero movie made, but I definitely think it's been definitely one of the better Superman movies made in a long time. I think more so than Returns.
Oh yeah. I told you this coming out of the movie, and I still stand by it. This is my favorite superhero movie.
Really? Okay.
That's not to say it's perfect at all. Obviously, I picked apart a bunch of stuff in this one. I feel like every single time I went there and said, do I like that? I kept saying yes. Like, when I really thought about it, I kept saying yes. I do like it. Yes, I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
And even, like, especially the cheesy parts and things, I'm like, yeah, but that's Superman. I love Superman. It's a comic book character. It can be goofy at times, and that's what I loved about it. Is it could be goofy, it could be extremely serious, extremely heartbreaking. It really walked that line for me. While it didn't have a lot of humor in the movie, it had some unintentional humor that I felt, maybe not. It's kind of intentionally unintentional in some cases. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, to me, it made Superman very much in the same way Doctor Who is a walk the line kind of thing, where they have humor, they have goofiness, they have the absorb aloft, they have, all these different things, but they also have this heartbreak of this man who's completely alone in the universe.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think in many cases there's a lot of similarities to the Doctor and Superman, and I think that it walked that line so well that I just absolutely adore this movie, and I cannot wait to see more of the DC universe. I don't think it's good. They have a long way to go to make it better than the Marvel universe right now.
Yeah.
Marvel universe is a big jump start.
I think this is like the Iron Man of...
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm just really excited to see more and I hope they continue this slightly darker, but not too much darker.
Just not dark, but just serious.
It's a little bit, yeah. It's a little bit more iconic and serious than the Marvel universe. Marvel universe has a little bit more irreverence, which I think Marvel as a company has always had that.
Yeah.
And I think DC has a little bit more of a traditionalist view.
Yeah.
So I think that the style works. I can't wait to see more, and that's my take.
So that's it then, folks. We're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to our episode. Just, if you want to join us, go into like us on Facebook, and email us at storytoscreen@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to us, and we'll catch you next week.